14 votes in favour, 1 vote against, 0 abstentions.
In a shocking display of heartless hypocrisy, the United States has once again blocked a crucial ceasefire resolution for the 4th time since October 23rd.
First time was in October last year.
Those against?
The second was in December. The third in February.
Those against?
And now, for the 4th time,
Those against?
the U.S. has raised its hand to veto a Security Council resolution for a Gaza ceasefire.
Standing alone, it has rejected a call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, using its veto power to mask its true intentions. The excuse? They can't support an unconditional ceasefire without ensuring the release of hostages.
We could not support an unconditional ceasefire that failed to release the hostages. Because, as this council has previously called for, a durable end to the war must come with the release of the hostages.
But let's be clear, this is nothing but a smokescreen. The resolution itself advocates for the release of all captives while demanding an unconditional ceasefire. The US simply didn't agree with the wording. This stark refusal reveals a chilling truth. The United States has no issue whatsoever in allowing Israel to carry out its horrific genocide against innocent Palestinians, mainly women and children.
I wanted to update everyone on a UN report that has come out that has laid out in horrific detail exactly who is being killed by the IDF in Gaza Strip. We can put this up on the screen. So this is a graph that shows by age and also by gender who has been killed in residential buildings in Gaza since October 7th. And as this person opines, the base of this pyramid of death are babies and toddlers. So those largest bars that you see at the bottom, the single largest age group that was killed were 5 to 9-year-olds. 5 to 9-year-olds. If you add up all these numbers, you'll find that some 70% of those killed that are confirmed, and still a lot of questions about exactly how many people have been killed, but 70% of them females and children, women and children. So that's what we're talking about here.
This resolution, drafted backed by the 10 elected UN members, received overwhelming support. 14 countries voted in favor, including 4 of the 5 permanent members. The United States stood against it, the lone voice of dissent. Initially, the resolution included Chapter 7 language. What does this mean? Chapter 7 of the UN Charter addresses threats to peace and acts of aggression, allowing for sanctions and even military force. But the US stripped that away during negotiations. The remaining negotiators agreed to omit it, hoping they could at least get the US to abstain from voting.
It originally had Chapter 7 language in it that would have given this resolution even more teeth, and perhaps even allowed for sanctions against Israel if it did not abide by it. However, the U.S. took that out of this draft resolution during the negotiation process. The negotiators hoped that they could get the U.S. to at least abstain, but even this watered-down draft, the U.S. clearly vetoed, and now they're going to have to explain to the world, quite frankly, why.
The world watches helplessly as Israel starves an entire population, deprives them of water and essential aid, and destroys their homes, hospitals, schools, and refugee camps, all while the US and its cronies stand by, shielding these atrocities. What does this say about the credibility of the UN Security Council? If a permanent member can use its veto power to block a ceasefire allowing Israel to commit genocide in the 21st century, what hope is there for the UN to be a real authority that solves the world's problems?
The UN Security Council, or UNSC, is 15 members, 5 of which are permanent, and they are the US, the UK, Russia, China, and France. And those 5 only have the right and the ability to veto any resolution that comes to them.
The problem is that the 5 permanent members of the Security Council do not wish to give up its veto. And I think we should remember the countries that have used it most. It is the United States and Russia. That underlines the fact how they've either tried to shield themselves or their allies from censure or from any kind of action, which leaves the Security Council dysfunctional, ineffective, and lacking legitimacy.
As long as a single country wields veto power, the UN will remain a toothless tiger, utterly ineffective and powerless to exercise any resolution. Make no mistake, the US is not merely complicit. Their hands are soaked in blood. They are actively arming and supporting this genocide. They have forfeited any moral authority to lecture the world on human rights.
We do not need to be lectured by the United States on hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is what they exhibit every day in different conflicts, not respecting state sovereignty and shamelessly imposing their own rules and interfering in their internal affairs. As a result, tens of thousands of civilian lives have been lost.
It's time for us to rise up to demand accountability, to challenge this monstrosity, and to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people who have suffered for far too long. The world cannot afford to remain silent.
Maybe for some we have the wrong nationality, the wrong faith, the wrong skin color. But we are humans, and we should be treated as such. Is there a UN charter for Israel that is different from the charter you all have? Tell us. Is there an international law for them, an international law for us? Do they have the right to kill, and the only right we have is to die? What the hell does Israel need to do more for this council to act under Chapter 7?
Thank you for listening to another episode of TBN. Please like, share, and subscribe to support independent media.